be a good leader, you first have to know your people and get to know what their background is and what their diversity of thought, so that you can leverage that.
I think the right leaders make that a comfortable environment, and I feel very comfortable.
I would just say relationships are so important. So being reliable to people who count on you and who trust your opinion you make it a priority. You just have to make that a priority.
Build rapport, build relationships, engage in those conversations that are meaningful, because you may or may not need them in the future. It's irrelevant. It's about the relationships.
Welcome to It Is Good, hosted by Mike McLain, where we pause to find gratitude in everyday moments and celebrate the beauty in life. From sunrises to heartfelt conversations, let's shift focus to what is truly good.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the It Is Good podcast, the show with good questions and greater purpose. On today's episode, we're sitting down with Brigadier General, retired Susan Pietrykowski. From humble beginnings as a high school basketball star in Hawaii to earning a degree in mathematics at the University of Portland, Oregon, to becoming the 21st Chief of the Air Force Medical Service Corps, BG Pie has pretty much done it all. She's juggled a $42 billion defense health program, overseen 2.6 million patients at 75 worldwide medical treatment facilities, and is somehow still a huge fan of kimchi. Not to mention, she's famed for uniting the most diverse personalities under one cohesive mission and team. After spending a year together at the Defense Health Headquarters, which is the medical annex of the Pentagon, alongside with our co-host today, Zach Gooch, there's no other person you want leading your team in times of big change or stress. For the past 3 years, she's been serving as the Chief Operating Officer at Health Net Federal Services, which provides health coverage to over 2 million federal employees, retirees, and their families, alongside 15,000 dedicated professionals and an annual budget exceeding $5 billion. We're here to learn how she keeps morale high with her incredible sense of humor, adapts to new cultures on a dime, and remains laser focused on delivering quality healthcare operations. She's a seasoned leader, a photographic memory mathematician, forward-thinking strategist, a mentor, and a friend. General Pie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I did not have an opportunity to review that very comprehensive intro, so thank you very much. I think you kind of conflated things a little bit, but I do appreciate it, and it is my honor to be here.
Where might one learn how to conflate?
Perhaps
It's more of an art form.
a mentor? I don't know.
Yeah. I seem to remember many stories where there was a little bit of exaggeration going.
Which always started with, so there I was, minding my own business. Great to be back together again. I love that we got the band back together, for sure.
So good.
Absolutely. Well, this is a special treat to all of our audience members. So what we didn't air was the beta version where Zach flew out to Colorado Springs.
As a surprise.
At some point, I'll probably release that, but it's a treat to have him here as a co-host, and super appropriate just to have General Pietrykowski on the show. Have a little bit of back and forth, some fun, and go through a few questions.
Perhaps a little
Does that sound
banter?
good, guys?
A little banter?
A little banter,
Okay,
a little
love
back
it.
and forth.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, ma'am, without further ado, I will hop into the first question.
Okay.
Here. So, being someone that's originally from Hawaii and obviously a foodie,
Yes.
and a lover of kimchi, which has its own stories associated with it, how do these threads of your background reflect who you are as a leader, and what unique flavor do they add to your leadership style?
I'm loving that you're adding spice and flavor into these leadership questions, because I'm pretty a spicy leader, I think. So, yes, I did grow up in Hawaii, although I don't maybe look like it. My parents are Midwesterners that relocated to Hawaii. My dad got recruited to teach math and science in Hawaii. So that's where my two older brothers and I grew up. So I would say that Hawaii is not really a melting pot, but more of a salad bowl, to use a metaphor.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's starting.
Yeah, it's
I feel
starting.
it building.
Yeah. Because each ingredient or culture has a unique texture, a unique flavor, but they all blend together to make this delicious salad, right? And so I think I incorporated that into my leadership style. So a lot of times we look for this cultural fit, but I've learned that you really want cultural adds to a team. So who's going to give us that fresh perspective? Who's going to leverage our thinking in a different way so that we actually take things to the next level? So, yeah, if we want to throw a little kimchi into that salad, I'm always for it. 100%.
As long as it's balanced.
It's got to be
You can't
balanced.
go off the deep end with bitterness. There's got to be a little bit of sweet, a little bit of crunchy, a little bit
Oh,
of.
yeah.
If you go textures and spice balance, you've got a real solid leadership team.
You really do. Are we going to talk true colors or should we save that for later? Because that gets into.
There's a divert.
Oof, go ahead.
It's in there, ma'am.
Okay,
It's in there.
We'll talk true colors in a little bit. So be on the edge of your seats because
I
we're
always am,
gonna
ma'am.
get into some true colors. But really
I don't
quick,
even need my whole seat. I'm just going to stay at the edge the whole
really
time.
quick, just let's give our true colors. Orange, Zach,
Oh, I'm a gold through
Gold?
and through.
and Mike.
Blue orange is what I've prescribed to for years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the high kick off of the elevator at the Nellis MTF was a true orange moment. If we want to talk about that
Dave
later,
the
we can.
janitor somewhere just recanting this high kick that went inches in front of his face.
True trauma.
I mean,
It was if you don't know Big Mike, he's about 7 feet tall, 6'8" to 7 feet tall, and when he does a high kick off of an elevator, the span reaches like 10 feet. So if you're in that wave blast, you just better watch out. But that was definitely a true orange moment.
And intense.
yeah, that was definitely throwing caution to the wind.
It was.
Nellis Hospital almost went down for custodial work for a couple weeks. That was
Luckily, we were
almost
in a trauma
yeah.
center, right? Nellis was able to achieve their trauma certification. So I mean, we were in the
That's
right
the only
we were in the
reason I
right
did it,
place. We were in the right place for sure.
I mean, I feel like if you're going to let loose in a place that can take care of it. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Okay.
That is fair. 100%.
So,
ma'am-
are we ready for the next one?
Well, I was just going to, before I jump into that one, I just wanted to go back and say that I've always appreciated the diversity of thought. I still carry that with me today when we have discussions about diversity and inclusion. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people do leave out of that salad mix is diversity of thought. Because you can be a lot of different things and come from a background that may not fit what you think that thing is, right? But if you get to know somebody and understand where they're coming from and their experiences, not just what they are or where you think they came from, that diversity of thought is so important to getting that true, well-balanced team versus what you think you may be getting when everybody still has the same background. They just happen to look different. So I've always thought that's
Zach,
really
you brought the salad back in. I love it.
I brought the salad back in.
But giving every ingredient a fair chance.
Yeah.
Like if you just throw one raisin into the mix,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, where'd that raisin come from? But if it's a balanced amount of raisins, and that's what you always gave, is you gave every single ingredient the chance to be a part of the salad.
Hey, you can't drown it in balsamic vinegar. You know, you gotta.
And you know what? The only thing I'm going to say no thanks to in my salad are olives. Just no thank you on olives. That's just not something.
You can be there.
It's not. If you're there, I'm going to pick you out. That's just the way it is.
That's fair. I mean,
but
that's programmatically. Who even likes olives? Yeah. They're the green personality of. Sorry.
They yeah.
All
right. We're not going to color shame
I didn't
olives,
say that.
But yeah. But
I don't want no color shaming.
But
here.
Zach, I do love your idea that to be a good leader, you first have to know your people, right? And get to know what their background is and what their diversity of thought, so that you can leverage that into big, new, crazy ideas, which sometimes take off right into the best ideas. So I love that. And now you're a mentor, Zach, and you're passing that along as well, which is just fantastic.
Doing my best, ma'am.
Love
my
it.
Best.
Love it.
Which takes us to our next question. Ma'am, across your time as a Brigadier General and now COO of HealthNet Federal Services, what accomplishments are you most proud of, and why do those stand out to you?
Okay, so I'm going to try to hit some highlights, and we can always circle back if we have time. Okay. So I will say first one that stands out is my deployment to Joint Base Balad in Iraq 2010 really solidified why we wear this uniform. And how everything we do at home station, training, reps and sets, et cetera, are all to get ready for contingency operations, right? That's why we're not working at Kaiser Permanente or, you know, so we had a great leadership team. We were charged with responsible drawdown, shifting resources and assets to Afghanistan. So super great mission. Taking care of the wounded warriors coming into our, the joint theater hospital, trauma level 1. So just overall fantastic rebluing opportunity in my career, which I'll never forget as long as I live. I'll then kind of shift a little bit to my 2 group commands, which both prepared me for my pinnacle position as the MSC Corps Chief and as the head manpower and resourcer for the AFMS. And I'll focus specifically on my first one, which was Ellsworth Air Force Base, South Dakota. When I received that assignment as the group commander, it is probably the only time I ever cried in my career, because I wasn't excited about going to South Dakota. And so, my brother, who's a retired Navy captain, is one of the first people I talked to about that. And he reminded me they're called orders, not invitations. So you're not being invited to go be the group commander, which is a true privilege to have command anywhere. Um, and so I will say that that's an assignment where I went kicking and screaming and I left kicking and screaming because it was incredible. B1 mission, the B1 bone, incredible leadership team, wonderful wing commanders. I had 3 throughout my 3 years there. And I was reminded that we are privileged to make the most of every experience for ourselves, for our families, and those people we serve alongside. So, just great. The next one I'm going to talk about is you two are intricately involved with a couple of these, but NDAA 2017, when authority, direction, and control of healthcare shifted to the Defense Health Agency, and really how we handled that as Medical Service Corps, Air Force Medical Service. My approach was if we're not at the table, we're on the table. Another favorite quote of mine. So it was important for us to be at that table. And so we embedded some of our best and brightest Air Force MSCs with the DHA. We put them in nominative positions, pinnacle positions. We sent a bunch of sweaty eddies over there. And if you don't know what a sweaty eddy is, these are our beloved resourcing team, the ones with pit stains and, they work half days, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Only
Um,
half.
only half days. And this trend of lending our cream of the crop resourcers to the DHA continues today because, medical Air Force MSCs know how we resource in corporate structures. So super proud of that. And that again continues today. And then COVID response. Nothing like a good global pandemic to test ourselves out, right? And we
Oh yeah.
people at the MTF did incredible work. We at the air staff at the time created policies and procedures, which, we attached to pandemic plans that will be used, hopefully not in the near future, hopefully not for a long time. But, I think we did some really great things that we learned from as well. And I think we came out, silver lining of COVID, if there is one, is we came out with a fresh perspective of work life harmony, right? We discovered that we didn't have to be necessarily, if you weren't delivering direct patient care, you didn't have to be in the office in order to contribute. um, if you were doing half days for 6 to 6 for 10 days in a row, maybe you take the next couple days off and just recharge and refresh with the family. And I think that perspective on work life harmony continues today, which is why a lot of people are looking for remote positions, hybrid positions, that kind of thing. And then I will wrap that up with my current job as the COO of HealthNet Federal Services. So our biggest challenge is losing the T5 TRICARE contract and transitioning out of almost 40 years of service to the TRICARE program. So being able to do that with grace and dignity for our companies, for our employees, and also keeping the focus on the beneficiaries in the West region, huge leadership challenge. And I think one that we've done it with transparency. And I've learned a lot from my boss as well. And so, even as a senior leader, we keep learning and adding things to our tool belt. So probably a more comprehensive answer than you were looking for, but I just couldn't, get one answer on accomplishments that I'm proud of.
That's outstanding, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
There was just so much
Yeah.
reminiscing that occurred in all of those answers. Just a lot of catchphrases, and I just personally that felt
Well,
awesome.
thank you. Well,
Um,
hey, Zach, you said
I will say with
outstanding. That reminds me of one of my other quotes: outstanding or out processing, right? And I'll attribute that to Senior Master Sergeant retired Tony Roll, who said, "Hey, if you're not outstanding, you're out processing from our unit." And I thought that was great.
It is a quote I use to this day.
I will have to say, with all sincerity, ma'am, this is a genuine, heartfelt comment. If there's any leader that could help a large scale organization with that transition,
Oh,
it is
well,
you.
thank you.
So they are very lucky to have you going through that change
I
and
appreciate
transition.
that.
So, true
Ah,
colors. So it doesn't have to be the answer here, but it is the topic of the hour. So, and this is my term, and I've obviously heard people talk about your ability to bring multiple different personality types and work ethics, and it doesn't really matter who you are; it's what you bring to the table. And so I would call you a master conductor of personality diversity. And so, in your own words, what does diversity actually mean? And how do you turn a group of distinct personalities into a high performing team?
so I would love to bring in the true colors for lenses to this one. So we talked a little bit about that. So, each person brings kind of I would say, a distinct style to solving problems, team dynamics, that kind of thing. And once you figure that out, we talked about what ours are. I'm an orange. Um, I like Mike and I are oranges. We like the high kicks out of the elevators. We like, to be excited, challenged. We're kind of roaming, looking for the party, the cold brew coffee moments, those kind of things. So we really need people like Zach, who's a good gold, who keep us focused, keep us on task. We need people questioning the why, which are our greens. Why are we doing this? What's the basis? What's the background? What are we trying to get to? And then we need our blues. And Mike, you're a blue also. Zach's definitely a blue, but just to make sure we're doing okay. Provide the hugs, whether they're virtual or in person, and just making
Some
sure
high
that we're
fives.
some high fives are perfect. Maybe fist bumps that we did a lot of during COVID. And once you recognize those types and give people opportunities to shine, um, leverage those different personality types, you will definitely optimize your team. And I would say, so giving people opportunities is one of the big things you can do as a leader. And then if an individual or your team fails at something, you got to fail fast, right? And move on and okay, what's the next idea? Because not, even great high performing teams have missteps every once in a while. And if you fail fast and move on, you have a much better chance of throwing something out there that works. So yeah, I love the true colors idea. I love cultural add versus cultural fit. And I would say earlier in my career, I was looking for cultural fits because I didn't want, the boat to be rocked or to have the naysayer in the crowd. But as I got more mature in my leadership, I'm like, no, those are the people you want on your team, right? Because those are the people that are going to challenge you. Those are the people that are going to give you your big, crazy, wild ideas that actually might work for optimal results and to accomplish the mission. So what do we think?
I have to ask, what happened to the elbow bump?
I don't know. I mean, I think that was just awkward because if it hits your funny bone,
It's kind of aggressive too. It feels more like a wrestling move. I just feel like it's kind of aggressive.
yeah. I mean, I think the elbow bump might have been introduced to us by Michael Simpson from of our Franklin Covey trainings. And
I think the problem, ma'am, is when you have somebody like me that's 6'8" and goes for an
you
elbow
could hit
bump,
all
it
kinds of
turns into
bad
a
things. You could
UFC
hit someone.
move.
You could give someone you just never know. A face shot.
Yeah, they're concussions.
Yeah, yeah, it's game over. We're protecting from COVID, but not elbow
Right.
shots to the head.
Memory
So
loss.
Unless you're
that's
in a
fair.
trauma
That's fair.
1 facility, then it doesn't matter. You can, just go for it. Yeah.
Then it's all fair game.
Yeah.
Turn
Yeah,
loose. That's
Perfect. Let them fly. Let the elbows fly. Not just elbow bumps. Let the elbows fly.
throwing bows.
Ah.
Dave from accounting made an error. I'm coming after him with the elbows. It's all over. Dave still has
Oh,
not
my
got me my latte
goodness.
from like 5 years ago.
That's how you start the conversation. You come in with the elbow and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
That's-
I love it. Maybe we can start a new trend, but I'm sorry, we digress.
we digress. There's one thing that I want to share very quickly, because it's something I think that really adds to the discussion that we just had. And that is like I don't know, maybe the second or third day, ma'am, that you were there with us. And for those of you who don't know, we all worked together in the Pentagon briefly at DHHQ, the Defense Health Headquarters. And it was early on in your tenure there. And I remember I was the fellow, Mike was the brand new exec. We were all sort of like just getting to know you. I had never met you before. And there was a moment where you came in and you were just stopping by. I don't even think you were fully involved yet. But there's you.
It was day one.
Day
man.
one,
First
okay.
day.
And you stopped by and you were kind of standing right in front of my desk area. And then there was a conversation that started up with a couple of people, and then a few more people, and then a few more people. And I was so invested in this conversation and just the riffing and all the fun we were having. And I looked around, and I realized there was like 20 to 30 people standing in this circle around you. And I was like, who is this? What are we doing? But it was great because everybody just felt drawn in. And I feel like that's such a great thing, and a memory that I have of like, wow, that is awesome. That is somebody that people want to be around and that people respect, and that it really stuck with me. And so I just wanted to share that as part of that discussion, because I really felt like that was such for me, a moment of like, wow, this is really cool.
Wow. So Zach, my question back to you is, was I wearing a costume?
Not at that time. No,
Okay,
that was not a costume day.
So I was wearing a uniform. So gotcha. Okay, costume with the star on it. Well, you know what? I appreciate that, Zach, because I think, it's moments like that you got to create fun and you have to create engagement, right? And I appreciate that, because although I don't specifically remember that moment, I'm very honored that you do. I think that's great. And that's why I was wondering if I was wearing.
Our whole time.
Yeah, it really did. It kicked off our whole time. I love
it.
that.
It did. And that kind of leads us into the next question, which I'm going to get right this time, because I adapt and I overcome. The three of us, as I said, all worked together for a very memorable year in the Defense Health Headquarters. If you had to pick just one, and I know there's lots.
Yeah.
I know there's lots.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick just one moment or a defining memory from that time, what would it be?
So because we just talked about kind of fun and engagement, I'm going to go straight to White Pearl, if I may. but I'm going to need help with White Pearl, because I'm going to set the stage. So Mike's brother-in-law, Patrick, was coming to town, and Mike and Zach decided that they were going to plan like an epic scavenger hunt full of mystery, intrigue, all kinds of stuff. So they thought that they were kind of planning this without my knowledge, but of course I knew what was going on, right? Because this was, like a military campaign that they were setting up.
It was.
Yeah. So
it was in depth. There's a whole backstory.
So Mike finally approaches me, even though I've known this is going on for so long. And he was like, would you be willing to be a part of this? And I was like, I can't wait. And why is it taking you so long to ask me if I could be a part of this? Like, heck yes. So we go into all this stuff, White Pearl. I'm going to turn it over to them, but I will say the craziest moment was after Mike and Zach had left the air staff and left me alone there. I came out of the bathroom, and on this housekeeping cart is this one bottle of cleaning solution, and it said White Pearl cleaning solution. I'm like, what? Are they back? What is going on here? So of course, I snap a picture of it immediately and text it to them, and we just got a big kick out of that. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys just for your perspectives on the White Pearl.
If I could have popped from around the corner in that moment, I mean, that's $1 million moment right there.
Oh, that would have been the best. That would have, I mean, at that moment, I thought you guys were like recording me or something crazy
Just like
was going on. Yeah, it was a classic.
So I take it we are officially declassifying White Pearl in this moment. Is that a fair statement, ma'am?
Yeah.
Because this is at your level. Nobody else can do that. This is at your level. I am
declassifying White Authority. And just in case anybody who's watching this with actual security clearances, White Pearl was just a fun thing that we were doing outside of work time, of course.
So White Pearl started as a simple scavenger hunt that would take the concept, just to frame this up for our listeners. So it would start as an escape room. And we were taking the concept of the escape room outside the walls of the room. So that's how it started. And it got to such a level of complexity that I went over to Zach one day and I said, can you help me with this? And so we developed so many layers that, full disclosure here, Chelsea and Patrick got like 30 minutes into it, and Patrick shot me in the head as the main character of the plot line. I was like, that doesn't even make sense. But I understand that you're confused because Zach and I went like 40 layers deep
drops,
in the plot.
There were various puzzles and clues and recordings with muffled voices,
video
phone calls to weird numbers. It just was bizarre.
People were taken hostage. Things were showing up on porches. Things were showing up on the Ring recording. It was a whole thing, and it took place over several weeks. So, nonetheless, for the audience, the kind of, I would say, crescendo of this whole thing was General Pye did, I think it was 3 recordings. And so when we had to get to the upper echelon of White Pearl, some of the higher levels of classification, they were deeper into the plot. There were these recordings that basically said my character was a double agent. Zach was being killed by a rogue terrorist organization. And then we had to go to the president's office because all digital operations had been shut down in the U.S. And there was an... I can't even laugh without getting through it. There was an old manual process in the Oval Office to disengage all of the nukes in the U.S. And so the escape room was the Oval Office, and they had to go through. So walking it, this is how crazy it was. We rented out the entire escape room. So it's just us. The video wasn't the standard safety brief of what the thing is, what the situation is. It was you.
I didn't know that. I
don't even know if you know this, man.
They actually swapped it out.
One of your videos was the prelude to the escape room event. And then when they got done, another video was the exit of that. And it was the president being thankful, and it was just
I didn't even know
way
that
over the
made
top.
An appearance in the
very
escape room through my
extravagant.
video. I love that.
You were throughout the whole thing.
There was just the stalking of me in downtown Fairfax that probably got some people concerned. If I'm being honest, there was probably people that were like, "This guy, something's happening. Something's happening to this guy."
Well, to be fair, once again, there was not supposed to be a shootout, but Patrick really wanted to shoot some people with his Nerf gun. I think the mistake was that we armed him with a Nerf gun. And I take that.
Oh.
That's my fault.
Yeah.
That is my fault. Well, man, I would say of all the TDYs that we went on, one of my favorite elements, and probably the most themed of all of the presentations that you did was pies pontifications, which each
Oh
bullet
yeah.
was the pie symbol. I mean, it's just this epic slide. But what I loved about it was a distilled version of the nuggets that you had accumulated over the years. And inevitably, everybody just wanted to know, what are the nuggets that you've accumulated? How did you get to where you are? Because you achieve such a level of success. People obviously, as anyone does, want to know how you got there. So if you would be willing to share just one of those, maybe two or three of your favorite pies pontifications, not just for airmen, but civilians alike, what would those be?
So I'll say my probably most practical pies pontification is implement one late night a week at work. So as we talked about, very typical to work half days when you're at the staff, 6 to 6, but that is a hard pace to continue for long periods of time. So, that was just an idea, pick one night a week. For me, it was typically Monday nights. Chat with your family about it. Hey, on Monday nights, I'm going to stay late, and you can, just jam and get whatever you need to get done. And then the other nights of the week, you leave at a reasonable time. And of course, then people would ask the question, what's a reasonable time? Right. And so then you can get fun and creative with it. So when we all worked together on the air staff and I was the 21st Corps Chief, what was our reasonable time to leave?
For you, I would say you usually left around 5 o'clock.
No, it was 5:21.
Oh,
Come on, Mike.
sorry.
You've just been out of the game.
I've been growing this beard, keeping it well maintained, forgetting about all the 21s.
Yes,
I'm so sorry.
5:21. It's
Zach,
okay.
you take over. I'm gonna.
Yeah. And when I was at the
5:41.
when I was at the 633rd Med Group, it was 5:33. You just got to tie in just some fun elements to that. But your staff is going to model your lead. There was a great quote from one of my wing commanders at Ellsworth. He retired as a Major General Wetherington, Mark Wetherington. Weather call sign WX. But he said, hey, there's going to be times you need to be at home. There's going to be times you need to be at work, and it's up to you to know the difference. And he gave us that latitude, which was really a great latitude to have as a leader and to model. But the one late night a week, I think it works. People who have implemented it think it works. And so I would encourage folks, pick your late night, talk it over with your family, try to make it consistent. And then the other days of the week, shut it down at a reasonable time. So I would ask you two, are you implementing your late night a week?
I want to say a quick anecdote, just real quick.
Okay,
I think
please.
for the audience and those, culture, like how do you affect a culture? That's such a high level, complicated question to ask. But for the audience, I would call you a master of affecting a culture. And one of the ways that I witnessed you do that, ma'am, was the infusion of fun. So people that are like, oh, 5:21, that's such a silly thing. Well, there were so many of those simplistic, seemingly like almost juvenile things, but they become a part of a culture that people gravitate towards, because part of the human condition is everyone's searching for something to build a community around. And you gave the structure for community, and everybody embraced that. And so 5:21, silly nicknames, these things became a part that we all got to laugh about corporately, and you almost gave that commonality to people. So for people that are searching for how do I create a culture, start there. Now, first of all, they can't be you, ma'am.
That.
People don't have the ability to have 40 people plus gravitate towards you because you're having a conversation. But it's something to hold on to for an aspiring leader that's trying to figure this stuff out.
Oh no, I think that's a great summary. And so the 21 for me as the 21st Corps Chief was symbolic, right? And trying to build that into the culture where people take pride in a part of history that you and your team are at it was really cool. But I think you summarized that very nice. Thank you.
So I'll let Zach answer that question.
Yeah, Zach, how are your one late night a week going?
So I took that through my whole time in Germany, both in AE and then onward into the med group. And I thought I implemented that pretty well. And it
Good.
was, I also mimicked the Monday because you're coming off a
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah,
So it
you're
made
sick of your
sense.
family by then, right?
It made sense. It made sense. And so I rolled with that, and I found that to be really helpful. And I think in the job that I have now, the only thing is that work just follows me home because people will hit me up
Um,
on Facebook, just call me on my cell phone, and we service people worldwide. So we get
yeah.
all around the world questions and comments. So um, work life balance is kind of a fun ditty these days, but we make it work. But I would say that we don't necessarily have too many late nights in the office because there's no emergencies and assignments. Quickest we can get somebody there is like 3 months from now. So we don't have a lot of quick turnarounds in our world, but we do get a
Yeah.
lot of contact outside of the normal time, and
Yeah.
I think you just kind of adapt to that. And we're real good about, if someone's got a lot of stuff going on outside of work hours, that we adjust for that. So I think in some ways we use that, but just kind of in a different way.
So Zach, because you guys service airmen worldwide, are you probably see more of an intertwining of work and life, right? It's really a harmony. I mean, so you might be at home at 7 p.m. fielding a question from somebody who might be on the, Pacific time zone, but do you think that it is more overwhelming, or do you feel like because you are working, maybe non-traditional hours sometimes, that you feel like you can take time with your family more? Is it more of a harmony or less of a harmony?
Well, I think it boils down to leadership too, and I think when you have leaders that like we've had in that office that give you the latitude to be able to act like an adult and know the difference of when you need to be there and when you don't, and understand that it's a 24/7 job, very much so because we do service people all around the world, and so I think the right leaders make that a comfortable environment, and I feel very comfortable in that environment, and I know that I can flex as I need to. Um, and it makes me feel better about jumping on Facebook and answering those questions, or getting that text at 10 o'clock at night, and you're like, hey, it's part of the job. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy mentoring people, and getting people where they need to go and take care of the mission. So I think we find a pretty good balance there.
That's awesome. The student becomes the master. Way to go, Zach. Amazing. I loved it.
We've grown up, ma'am.
You guys really have. I mean, you've got a beard now.
That's it.
I mean, exactly.
A lot of
And then we're
facial
done.
hair.
Ah.
So, ma'am, you served as a brigadier general and now serve as the COO of HealthNet Federal Services. How do these two roles compare, and which leadership principles carry over seamlessly between the military and corporate worlds? And what is one piece of advice you can give to transitioning senior officers, or really transitioning folks at all?
Yeah. So I recognize that certain military traits are pretty seamless translating. So respect for people's time, sharing your vision to complete a mission, timeliness, meeting deadlines, those all translated pretty easily. One thing that's a lot different, I think, in my company, and I think many companies, is that the organizational structure is a lot flatter, right? There's less hierarchical chain of command. And so it's more common to see people navigate throughout a leadership structure than go through the chain of command, which a little uncomfortable for someone with, a lot of time in the military, to see people just, going straight to the CEO or the COO. But
Yeah.
I will say it does enable things to happen a lot faster, which in this, world of 24-hour news cycle and those kind of things, a lot of times that's positive. Um, so uncomfortable, but it's good to get acquainted with the uncomfortable. Um, so I will say a lot of military skills translate, and then there's fresh perspectives, and that navigating of org structures that was different, but you just get used to it. And as a piece of advice that I have to transitioning folks, network, network, network. Um, y- Use LinkedIn, use your professional platforms, because there's a lot of people who have made that transition who are willing to help. give you practice interviews, connect you with, potential job opportunities. A lot of people ask if I miss the military. I don't miss working half days, 6 to 6. But I do miss the people, and I stay in touch with them, right? Like, you two, and having this amazing opportunity. So, and I've tried to make myself available to people who are transitioning as well, to talk through different things, talk about negotiating a compensation package, because you've never had to do that in the military, and I had to reach out and ask people how to do that. So I'm very happy to pass those nuggets along.
So I don't want to just keep offering up a lot of thank yous and attaboys, but I can't help myself from sharing this with the audience. So one of the things that is almost to the point of confusing to me, ma'am, and this really started at the Pentagon with Zach and I, just how available you made yourself to two, a major and a captain. Like, why? Like, it didn't make sense. Obviously, I was your executive officer, but even still, it was like, why are you spending so much time mentoring? And I'm just going to share this with the audience. That never stopped. Like, I know you're somebody that I could text and you're going to get back to me. And that someone at your position, I'm going to call an audible here and we can edit this if we need to, ma'am. But how does somebody, I know the time commitments on you, the responsibilities, the burdens that you carry, how do you do that?
I would just say relationships are so important. So being reliable to people who count on you and who trust your opinion, you make it a priority. You just have to make that a priority. And I have people that I do that, who I trust and know will get back with me. And, that's how we create future leaders, right? If I invest time in you and Zach, I mean, you've grown the beard. Um, you two are becoming, you are phenomenal leaders. You're becoming even great, even better leaders. And so I think that investment carries forward. And that it was an investment in you two, it was an investment in the Medical Service Corps, it was an investment in the Air Force, and now that we're out, it's an investment in you, Mike, being a amazing citizen in Colorado Springs. So yeah, you just have to take the time.
I'm going to take a liberty here and just share one of my personal nuggets from my time with you, ma'am. So if that's okay.
Please.
So it was our first month together, and you were very deliberate and told me to make sure that you did kind of your rounds and met and built relationships. And I remember specifically because at the Pentagon, you have read aheads. And so you always give your principal kind of the information of what to expect, even so far as what's the intent of the meeting, so that they're prepared walking into a meeting. And so I remember specifically General Pai wanted to just meet with people. She just wanted the space to build relationships, because I will never forget her saying this. She said the first time that she needs something, she doesn't want that to be the first time that she meets someone. And so she was very deliberate and intentional about walking around, about spending the time with people. And so to any aspiring leaders out there, put this in your back pocket that there's no transaction necessary with relationships. Just do it. Just build rapport, build relationships, engage in those conversations that are meaningful, because you may or may not need them in the future. It's irrelevant. It's about the relationships.
Wow, Mike, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's a great yes. Again, the student becomes the teacher.
Well, I'm honored, ma'am. It's the beard. So I'd, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question. As the COO of a major healthcare organization, something that my listeners are familiar with, and just to be totally transparent with you, ma'am, something that I often say is that healthcare in America is broken. And I think NDAA 2017 highlights that Congress's desire to see reform in the medical service and military medical service, MHS. So with that, not just from a military perspective, but in the civilian sector as well, from a cost, quality, and access standpoint, What do you see as the way forward, or the things that you see that might help navigate some of these difficulties that we're experiencing as Americans?
So this could be the topic of an entire
Of course.
other podcast. So I'm going to just give us a snippet, but our US population is shrinking because people are not having as many kids as they used to. And it's also aging at the same time. So we are going to be in desperate need of affordable geriatric care, nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, which will all probably require even more Medicare reform. So I think that is a really important piece of the future of healthcare, and it's kind of an immediate need. And with an aging population and limited resources, how do we take better care of ourselves now through prevention, through optimization, like the kind of stuff that you guys are doing, Mike, with biofunctional health solutions, so that we require less healthcare as we age. That wasn't even a paid plug. I just love what you
Oh,
guys are doing there.
flash
Boom.
it up. Flash it up.
So,
Totally
so
agree, ma'am.
it's a couple of different pieces. Like, how are we going to manage the aging population that we have now? How do we take better care of ourselves, so we require less healthcare as we age? So, two hairy problems, impacted by a lot of things: change of administration. We could get into the Veterans Administration, but why don't we save that for another podcast? But
Yeah,
it's going to require really creative, smart teams filled with all kinds of different colors, as we've talked about, to solve these problems.
man, would you go so far as to say what we've done in the past will not work in the future?
I think there are elements that will work, but yeah, we're going to have creative new solutions because we've never had this big of a problem set before, with this aging population. And a lot, all over LinkedIn, you see, hey, do you want to be part of this, an equity founder for this new nursing home concept? Or, I mean, the
Hmm.
need for skilled geriatric care is blowing up.
Not
And
all of us
at
get those messages, ma'am.
That's at its and this is blowing up at a time when many of healthcare workers have left the industry because they were
Yeah.
completely burned out by COVID.
Yep.
So how do we get people interested again in that? How do we create the pipeline for that? How do we make sure that they're compensated enough to be willing to stay in the industry? So yeah, lots of different facets to that question.
Yeah, well
That's a
said, ma'am.
great point.
Yep.
And again, that's probably another one of those, could be a whole nother uh, episode topic
Maybe
of
a part
conversation.
2. Perhaps a part 2.
I wasn't gonna say it, but man, that sounds like you're asking to be on the show again for a reunion tour here.
I would, that I think I am. I really think I am.
I mean, I think the burnout factor is one of the things we took away from the COVID timeframe, was that just how difficult it can be to work in the healthcare space, both as a clinician and as support to those clinicians. Something that I've got a lot of family members that are clinicians that have worked emergency medicine for many years, and they always talked about how difficult it was. It's a labor of love for them, but then to add in that level of complexity was really just a game changer for them, and really it took it to a different level. And I think a lot of people weren't ready to go to that level, and so a lot of people stepped away. And that's a great point, that there's just not as many of those skilled practitioners anymore, and that creates need, and that need's not being met. And so there's just a lot of things downstream from that are problematic.
Absolutely. And you, Zach, are going to have to figure that out for the military health system and the Air Force Medical Service. So that's a charge to you.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. So throughout your career, you've often had to assimilate into new teams and locations rapidly. What would you say is the best advice on how to quickly learn new cultures, whether it's a new workplace, city, country, and truly thrive in it, which is something you're very excellent at? So I'm very curious.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm going to reiterate something I said before is, all of us are privileged to make the most of every experience for ourselves, for our family, for the people we work with. So you got to take some time to observe and listen. My mom always said you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you talk. Very difficult for me as an orange. And just really immerse yourself in that culture, right? Be all in. And those are the times that I've made, the best of friends. I'll just in South Dakota at Ellsworth, I've talked about that assignment where I was kicking and screaming going in, through Little League baseball, through my boys. We met, wonderful families, and a particular family who were ranchers, Black Angus cattle, amazing. And we've stayed, they came to my promotion to 1 star, my retirement, and we still stay in really great contact today. So consider it a privilege, because it is. Immerse yourself, listen, and just truly be all in is what I can recommend.
So, ma'am, I hear you saying it's a lot about mindset, going into
Absolutely.
something and having the right frame and mindset when you're approaching it, which I think is something that everyone can learn from in all situations. Is, if you come to something in a positive outlook, and you come into it with that kind of energy, then that's what you're going to get back out of it. Versus you come at it with a negative side, and then you're like, well, why is everything going wrong? Well, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of how you showed up. So,
Zach, I'm loving the mindset aspect. And sometimes you have to reframe it, right? You just have to reframe your initial, thoughts about it and reframe it into a positive. And mindset comes with attitude, right? If you
yes.
approach things with a positive attitude, instead of being a negative Nelly or a negative Nestor, um, things typically tend to work out.
That was not a paid advertisement, but very on brand. All right, man. Well, we are going to finish here with a little bit of word association. So what I'm going to
Okay.
do is I'm going to read you 1 to 2 words, typically 2 words,
Okay.
and I just want you to go off the cuff a 1
Yeah.
or 2 word response to whatever those phrases are.
Okay, let's
Sound
do it.
good?
And some of these we may have talked about in the podcast already, and
Absolutely.
some of them may be new. Now, for the audience, are we going to expand on any of these, or we're going to just leave them wanting more?
This is the teaser to part 2.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
they'll have to tune
I'm
in
ready.
for part 2 to hear the backstories.
Okay.
All right. White pearl.
Legendary.
Roof stomp.
Roof stomp should not be on the calendar.
That's fair.
That deserves unpacking. Part 2.
Part
Mike
2.
Simpson.
Match energy level, and let's just say it keeps going up.
That deserves an entire podcast episode.
It really does.
Do
it
the
really
backstory, lead into like the lessons learned. So good.
Yeah.
Sweaty Eddie.
Sweaty Eddies are in my heart always. Those are our resources, and I will always be one of them, and I will always love them.
Parking receipt.
Parking receipt, it makes me think of a very windy day at the Dulles Airport. And someone with a 10-foot wingspan searching for a receipt.
Scavenger hunt mixed with a half marathon. It was.
Can we just put a cherry on top of that one?
Go for it, ma'am.
The parking receipt that was retrieved turned out to be the wrong receipt.
Couldn't be more energy. The desire was there. The
desire and the energy was high.
That encapsulates our
mission success was a failure.
I think I was in a full sweat when I got back in the truck, and we had a decent drive from there.
It was more like a full lather than a sweat.
Lather.
It was a full lather.
So much to unpack. So much goodness. This is more of a curious word association.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C.
So when I moved to Washington, D.C., I was told that Washington, D.C. is where Northern hospitality meets Southern efficiency.
I forgot about
So
that
let me
one.
just
So good.
let that rest for a minute.
Yeah.
So Northerners are not super known for hospitality, and Southerners are not really known for efficiency. But I will say, despite that, I really enjoy living in this area, which is why I haven't moved. Yeah,
Well, perhaps because of the next word,
which is
Michelin.
So enjoy the moments in life. Try to find those Michelin star restaurants when you can, and spend the money. Enjoy it. Be a foodie. Love it.
Because the lessons you learn at a Michelin star between the different flavors and taste profiles and everything helps you be a better leader.
It really does. I mean, that is the bottom line of our leadership lessons today of our podcast.
And to bring it all back together, that's the salad.
That's the salad. I
That's
love
the
it.
salad.
That's the salad. Oh,
I have a surprise final word.
ready.
Are you?
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Coin.
Wait a sec.
But is it on your person, ma'am?
It is not on my person. You got me. That's a good one. That is a win. Is that your 21st Corps Chief coin?
No. But it's one that would go through airport security, which
it's a little bit awkward that you wouldn't coin the 21st Corps Chief with the 21st Corps Chief coin.
it's the only one I had in my wallet. Because so for the audience's pleasure, I had to start carrying a wooden coin. So, ma'am, I'm going to put the onus back on you. You should have had a variation in your coins that was wood for when you would coin check
for airport security.
Right after airport security.
That is a fact. That is true.
Get my stuff first. Well,
I mean, there's just no excuses, though, Mike. You should always be ready.
Oh,
and
I agree,
wasn't,
ma'am.
And I wasn't for this coin check. So all I have to say is, as I was. I think I've been a civilian too long.
I'm with you, ma'am.
I think that's fair.
But for podcast number 2, you won't get this will never happen again.
I have no doubt. Although I do think I at one point got a beer from you, which
I think you did.
What people don't know is this is like number 2 of 150 checks. I mean, the percentage.
And shame on me for not being ready.
You're still higher than Steph Curry from the free throw line. I mean, you're at an elite level, ma'am.
It's higher than 21%.
Higher than 21%, indeed. Well, ma'am, I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for taking the time. This has been everything I expected it to be and more.
Yes.
Zach, thank you for co-hosting with us. This has been a real treat for our listeners. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. It's really great to just banter again with the two of you. Enjoy the times that we had before, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun times in the future. So thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Well, everybody tuning in, thank you guys for watching. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.